Ferris, an experienced mountaineer, decided to invite 3 of his friends, Rena, Dua, and Vina, to climb Mount Dosa, a mountain notorious for its eerie and mysterious reputation. Legend has it that this mountain is where many hikers have disappeared without a trace. Local folklore tells of the mountain being a gathering place for the spirits of hikers who perished during their journeys, unable to ever leave. Ferris, who didn't believe in myths, wanted to prove that all the stories were just legends. With thorough preparation, they began their hike on a bright morning. Rena, who was somewhat afraid of the horror tales, decided to join to prove her bravery. Dua, cheerful and playful, kept teasing Rena throughout the journey, while Vina, calm and more serious, carefully observed every step they took. After several hours of hiking, they entered a dense forest area. Silence enveloped them, with only the sound of footsteps on the leaf-covered ground breaking the stillness. Suddenly, Rena felt something was off, like someone was watching them. However, her friends just laughed, brushing it off as paranoia. After several hours of walking, they arrived at a small hidden lake in the middle of the forest. There, they took a short break, enjoying the food they had brought with them. As they sat around the lake, Vina noticed something strange by the water's edge, a large stone carved with unfamiliar symbols they had never seen before. The stone appeared ancient, but it had recently been shifted, revealing an inscription beneath it, a warning: never light a fire here. Ferris, unfazed by the legend, decided to build a campfire to keep them warm. As the fire began to burn, the atmosphere around the lake started to shift. A thin mist began to descend, and the once tranquil surroundings suddenly felt oppressively heavy. Suddenly, they heard the sound of footsteps coming from within the forest. The sound grew closer, yet no one was visible. Suddenly, from within the fog, they saw a dark figure standing at the edge of the lake. Its face was indistinct, just an unrecognizable black shadow. When they tried calling out to the figure, it vanished without a trace. However, when they turned to head back to the campsite, they found that their tent was already partially burned, despite the campfire they had built earlier not being large enough to cause such a fire. They continued their journey toward the mountain peak, even though the atmosphere grew increasingly strange. The heavy silence lingered, and the thickening fog made it harder for them to see. At one point, they became separated in the thick fog. Rena, who had fallen behind, began to panic and ran to catch up with her friends. However, she found herself ending up in the same spot repeatedly, as if she were moving in circles and unable to escape. Ferris and Dua, realizing that Rena is missing, try to find her. They become trapped in a labyrinth of woods that grows darker with each passing moment, as if every step they take leads them further away from the right path. They hear Rena's voice calling out to them from afar, but as they run toward the sound, Rena appears before them with hollow eyes, a pale face, and a body that looks thinner than before. "Rena, what happened to you?" Ferris asked, shocked to see the changes in his friend. Rena only smiled, a horrifying, chilling smile. "I've been waiting for you," she said in a voice that was not the Rena they knew. As they tried to step away, Rena suddenly vanished into the mist, leaving the two of them in utter confusion. When they finally reached the mountain's peak, they discovered a place they had never seen before, an ancient tomb with a gravestone covered in moss. There, they found more carvings of the same symbols they had encountered on the stones by the lake. Ferris and Dua began to sense that something was terribly wrong. They decided to open the tomb, and inside, they found an old journal written by the last hiker who went missing on this mountain, a man who described how he became trapped in an endless loop of time, surrounded by figures that could not be clearly seen. But they knew they were being watched. Suddenly, fog enveloped the mountain peak, and they felt the presence of a creature larger than anything they had ever imagined. From the mist emerged a massive figure with a distorted human face, hovering in the air, staring at them with glowing red eyes. "Welcome to our home," the voice echoed in their minds. After a long battle against the creatures that surrounded them, Dua and Ferris finally managed to find a way back, running along an indistinct trail. However, just as they were about to reach the base of the mountain, they came to an abrupt stop in front of a chasm that hadn't been there before, a chasm that wasn't marked on the map. In front of them, the figure of Rena, now transformed into a dark shadow, waited. Her eyes glowed red, and her mouth emitted a low, terrifying sound. With a deafening roar, the chasm opened up, swallowing Rena into the deep darkness. Ferris and Dua, their bodies exhausted, could do nothing but watch as the chasm consumed their friend. When they returned to the village, they discovered that no one remembered them. They were trapped in an isolated world, becoming part of the mountain's legend, one they could never escape. Mount of Retribution is a gripping and mysterious story, combining myth and escalating fear. It draws the hikers into an unexpected trap, culminating in a chilling and ambiguous ending.